I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for your time today. Appreciate everyone taking a few minutes out of your day to learn a little bit more about Drive and some things that we have to offer specific to HR departments that you're out there visiting. Go through a little bit of background information about Drive. We'll talk about some of the business challenges that HR departments face as it relates to scanning and document management and printing, and review some of the ways that the Drive can help you address those issues, and leave it open for questions at the end. A little more information on Drive. We've been in business since 1995, headquartered here in Austin, Texas. Large number of companies that we work with all around the world, and we do distribute and support the product throughout the world as well, and have won a number of awards for that. In terms of some things that make us unique in the marketplace, the core issues, especially for the MFP market, would just be the breadth of our product offering and the way that our products are able to work in conjunction with one another. I think you'll find a lot of the software providers in our industry may have one solution, or they may kind of focus on a niche area. We have our capture application, Drive Image, which is really our flagship product, and we've had for many, many years. But we also have our own document management system, so we could be scanning documents into other backend systems or our own backend system. And we do have a mobile printing and cost accounting solution in Drive Print as well, and some functionality where these products interact with one another, such as our single sign-on functionality between Drive Print and Drive Image. But today, obviously, we're talking about ways that we can work with HR departments, but these are all very horizontal applications that go across really all departments and a wide variety of industries. And similarly, we work with companies that are in the Fortune 100, and we also work in mom and pop shops that may have 5 or 10 employees. But to get into some of the challenges that are really specific to HR departments, at the core, you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information. HR is obviously managing what many people would say to be the strongest asset of almost any company, which is the human asset and your people. And all this information is becoming really more sensitive today than it has been in years past for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons being identity theft. Social security numbers are very, very sensitive, and there's a lot of security surrounding that today. And that's something that's changed over, even the last 10 years. But I've been in the document management industry for over 15 years, and I have been in a document storage area for a Fortune 100 company that stored all of their folders and had everything organized based on their employees' social security numbers. So that filing system went back to the 70s, but they were obviously needing and wanting to move off of that system, but they literally just had a set of folder structures that were all organized based on social security number. You're never going to see that today, and now this information is very sensitive. But there's other very sensitive information aside from just someone's social security number. There's evaluation forms here for different employees that you wouldn't want that to just be public information throughout the organization. Maybe salary information for everyone's heard stories of someone accidentally leaving something on the printer that had sensitive information, maybe like everyone's salary, or maybe it got emailed out. So there's a number of controls that you can place on your documents and on the way that those documents are printed to help keep that information from becoming public. But also, as you're scanning these documents so that you can store those and have those available for federal compliance, or for tax issues, those are all going to have to be indexed so you can then find those documents. And ideally, you have a streamlined way to put those in your backend system so that you don't have a really manual process to have to open your backend system and then try to import documents and do all that indexing within the system. It's very cumbersome, and it's a non-value added process. Additionally, dealing with all the new employees, so you're constantly trying to recruit new talent, evaluate new talent, And once those selections have been made and you want to bring somebody on board, there can be a rather complex process to make sure they're brought up to speed on the different benefits of the organization, different training exercises. So being able to manage that process and ideally have oversight in that process by management. So some of the things that we could do to help would be again, streamlining that process to get those documents directly into the backend system, having those already identified and indexed at the MFP, being able to select the appropriate file format for those images. So, one thing that you'll hear us talk about a lot is making sure that your documents are being stored as searchable PDFs, particularly if they're being stored in a file server. So now you're able to do full text searches on all those documents, but also in a document management system such as Drivve. There's advantages to being able to search on more than just the index values, but being able to do a full text search on those documents. We also do image cleanup, so despeckle, deskew, blob removal. That's particularly helpful for documents maybe coming in via fax, but really any image, you want to make sure you have a clean image and you'll get a better OCR read on that cleaned up image as well. Blank page deletion. We can also do blank page separation, which is good for batch scanning. I have a new employee packet. I need to scan a whole bunch of documents, but they're all going to be indexed the same by like an employee name, and I just need to separate each document out. We can separate on a barcode or separate on a blank page. We can also auto-rotate documents based on the direction of the text. So if I have some documents that are landscape, some documents that are portrait, again, we're just saving someone the hassle of having to rotate those images as part of a quality control measure on the back end. And distributing information. That's another function that's often delegated to HR, is to have some communication with the organization, let them know what's going on. Maybe there's changes made to the healthcare plan or some other information that you need to make sure everyone's aware of. Rather than having to email documents to yourself and then send that back out to everyone, you could scan in a document and email that directly from the MFP and have that show up as coming from that user, have it show up in that user's sent items so that they have a record that email is sent out, and again, just save you some extra steps and streamline that process. So take you through some of the solutions. And specifically what that would look like on your MFP device panel. So one thing we mentioned was having sensitive information. Maybe it's a form that you need to print out that might have a social security number on it. Could be payroll data, really anything that you don't want anyone else just to be able to see. Evaluation forms. So with a pull printing application like Drivve Print, instead of the jobs just instantly printing out at the device, we could have that job sitting on a server and waiting to be released at any device that they designate. So they could come up to a device and simply scan a security badge or a proxy card and have the job, they would recognize the user and go ahead and release the job they have there. They just submitted, or you could use the proxy card to log into the device, go into Drivve Print and see all the jobs that are in your queue. So then you could select that job to be printed out. You would also have the option to have a 4-digit PIN code. So I could submit a print job via my phone or a tablet via email, and I would be sent back a 4-digit code. I'd walk up to the device, enter my 4-digit code, and then it would print out that job. So I know no one else would accidentally take that, or somebody would see information they're not designed to see. Additionally, we have the option with Drivve Print and Drivve Image to do a continuous single sign-on. So if I'm authenticating the user with Drivve Print, now that person is going to be logged into the device as that user. So I mentioned earlier the ability to send an email and have that show up in your sent items and show as coming from you as that user. You don't have to input your username and password to do that. You could either do that with a proxy card, and it'll validate that against a directory that we're maintaining, or we can use a 4-digit short code. So that's much easier than having to enter a full username and password, and now you're fully logged in the device. So that's going to be helpful if you are sending an email. It would be helpful if you're scanning into various backend systems. If you're scanning into a file server, you could only be allowed to see the folder structure that you have permission to see. So you're not scanning into a folder that you don't have permission to, and then would have a lost document. That's also true with SharePoint and some other systems where we have direct plugins. So where now you're logging in as an authenticated user and just seeing the folder structure that that user would want to see. And that's also true in terms of what scan profiles that person's going to see. So if I'm in the HR department, I don't need to see the accounting scan profiles. I don't need to see the sales scan profiles. You want to keep it simple so that there's not an opportunity for someone to make a mistake, but it's also a streamlined process. If maybe I just want the HR person, they come in and log in, they just see the HR screen. So this is an example that we made. All of this is customizable, so this could be collecting whatever information that they want, and all of these fields could be made mandatory or they could be optional. But for this example, we're imagining you're in HR and you have a lot of different forms and documentation that you need to scan in for your employees. So it could be an I-9 form, which they need to show that someone's a U.S. citizen, and they need that for federal requirements. It could be in a variety of forms: tax forms, insurance forms. But so here you can see that it's asking for employee name, phone form type, and what department that employee is in. So it could be something where you just free form type that employee's name, or you could have a more sophisticated setup where we're actually integrating with the backend system and validating that the employee's name is spelled correctly and that they are in the system. So here I've done a basic search. It's brought me back some names. I can select the name that's appropriate. Now I'm also selecting the document type. And again, we can make this is all customizable for what you would like to see. And then I would select the department. And so I can, that would give me the option on the back end to be able to search based on department to look for various employees. So now there's a final screen with on Drivve image to validate that all the information that is put in was put in accurately. I would hit scan, and for this example, it's assuming that the folder structure is known because I'm in HR. So I'm going into an HR folder. That could be setting up a folder specific to that employee name. It could be setting up a folder specific to that department. However, they'd like that information to be organized. And again, we could be passing it on to a file server, to SharePoint, to any other backend system that they're using. The important thing is just to understand that from your customer and be asking them, well, where are you wanting to put these documents? How are you accessing that? And how are you searching for those documents once they are in the system? And you also obviously want to find out how are they getting those documents into the system today? Because more than likely it's a rather manual process. And if you're able to integrate your device to where you're plugged in and connected to their backend systems, you're providing a lot more value to your customer, which is going to give you an opportunity to potentially sell your machine for more money. And it's going to make you harder to replace. When someone else comes, they're not going to have this new idea to say, hey, I can plug your device right into your backend system. So you can say, oh, we already do that. So I mentioned we do have our own document management system. So you would have the option to scan directly into that document management system, of course, from our Capture application. And that is available either on-premise or in the cloud. Typically, for HR departments, they would be designing spaces for each of their employees. So there's 4 main areas to our document management system. The first being the search criteria. So I mentioned earlier that our recommendation is using searchable PDFs, so you can do full text searches on those documents. We also have a very sophisticated filtering system within Drivve DM. So as you can see here, you could hit a minus and get rid of any of these filters, or hit a plus and add them. But there's all different kinds of ways that you can filter down the results from your searches within Drivve DM. And as I mentioned, one of the common uses of spaces, which a space is effectively like a index on steroids. You can set permissions based on spaces, but it's just another way to organize your documents outside of a folder structure or just a basic index. And then now you can group all of the appropriate documents for that employee within their space. But spaces are typically used as kind of a living and breathing thing. Your folder structure is going to be permanent, where you have like your accounting department, your HR department, and sales department. As long as you're in business as an organization, you're always going to have a sales department, and you're always going to have a marketing department. Spaces are things that might have a start and end. So it could be customers, it could be employees. Here we have Bobby Hill. Bobby Hill might be there for 10 years, but sooner or later he's not necessarily going to be permanent. That could change, and spaces are a good way to organize that information and make that easy to find. We do also have apps for iPad and the iPhone. So if you are using our cloud-based application, you would have remote access available to any of those documents that that particular user has permission to see. You can also administer workflows directly from your phone or from your tablet. So some workflows that may be pertinent to the HR departments could be for the interview process. You'd have someone's resume and designate who's going to be interviewing that individual. They could all place their notes from the interview as part of that workflow. And then someone in upper management, maybe they want to see, okay, what's going on with these three candidates that we're looking at for this position. They could go in, see everyone's notes and compare that, have an idea, okay, well, how come only one interview's happened for this candidate and these other two, they've already been through their three interviews. I want to follow up on that and find out what's the holdup here, and so forth. But it just gives you oversight into that process to have a workflow process there with the document management system. Onboarding new clients or onboarding new employees may also be a good workflow process. Or make sure someone's reviewed their benefits with them. Make sure someone's reviewed various aspects of the training for their new job. And we do also, as part of our Drivve print product, as we mentioned, the cost accounting. There's mobile printing and device authentication, where you can be logged into the device and with a single sign-on and not have to enter any more data and operate on that device as that authenticated user. We can also report back to various departments. So that's not necessarily just a function of HR, but perhaps they want to monitor individuals and their activity as it relates to printing. Maybe set some restrictions on that in terms of who can print in color or forcing people to print in duplex as a cost-saving measure. That's all available from our Drivve print application. We can also add mobile printing to any other cost accounting application, and we have a webinar coming up on that, which talks about how for one price we can add mobile printing to all their users. So really the key benefits that we can offer to an HR department are related to their document storage, the controls on how those documents are named, validating that the way they're naming those documents is accurate, and allowing them to have security around that sensitive information. And similarly, when they're printing documents, allowing them to have a sense of security that that document's not just going to be sitting on the device. They can wait to release that job so that that information is not shared with someone that's not supposed to see it. We can utilize a document management system to help them organize those documents that they're going to need for federal compliance and validate that only the appropriate individuals have access to those documents with audit trails. And additionally, we would have workflows available, of course, for interviewing, onboarding new clients. But more information is available on our website. And if you have any other questions, you're more than welcome to contact me. See if I have any questions here. Don't see anything just yet. Well, again, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 630-886-4087. And you can also reach me at mike.williamson@drive.com. Thanks again for your time.